students. So this is continuation of the chapter organism and population. In this chapter, in the last video, I had explained for you regarding the formation of the different types of biomes and existence of the organism based on the precipitation, and the biomes existence based on the precipitation, that is rainfall and the temperature. With this comparison, we also studied a graph also. Now, in this video, we will be studying in the same topic of organism and its environment. We will be studying that influences of the abiotic factors on the biotic factors. Now, which are the abiotic factors? Means I have already said you the water, soil, light, and the temperature. All these effects on the organism. What is its effect on the organism? We will be studying in detail how it affects the organism in different areas, in the different biomes, how the organisms survive in these conditions will be understanding in this video. So this is coming to the abiotic factors. The first abiotic factor which we are learning is temperature. So in this picture, there is an quite the what do you tell, the sparkling light of the sunlight, which tells us the temperature is too high. So usually the ecological relevant environmental factor, the important factor is temperature. Now temperature on the land varies seasonally. How seasonally? Now, for example, in the winter season, the sun rays will be less, humidity will be more. And when we refer to the humidity is more, the growth is less. I means the sunlight also will be very less. Temperature accordingly it will be less. So the growth, the development in the plants and also in other organisms, we cannot expect too much. It will be less. In the same way, whereas in the summer season, you can see as the temperature is more, it is also said to be the breeding season, we can tell. So there will be rise in temperature, means humidity will be very less. So at this season also we tell it is a very good season for the growth and the development. In this way, maybe during the seasonal also there is change in temperature, and also according to the biomes also there is change in temperature. So that's what we study here. So here the second point what I have written is temperature on the land varies seasonally. Why it varies seasonally? Because it gradually decreases from the equator to the poles. You know, earth rotates, and from the plains to mountain tops also it varies. It ranges from sub-zero level in the polar areas and high altitudes to to very less than that of the 50 degrees Celsius in the tropical deserts. Now, the average temperature in the thermal springs and deep sea hydrothermal vents exceeds nearly how many degrees Celsius? Nearly 100 degrees Celsius. So usually when we refer the temperature will become very less in the polar areas, whereas it is very high in the desert areas. See, yeah. So when we refer the temperature, when we give an example, for example, mango tree cannot grow in the temperate countries like Canada and Germany. This is the example given in your NCRT. You take yourself an example. Suddenly, we will take you and we will land you in the Antarctic region. How far can you survive? Depends upon your survivability. Okay, so that means you will not get adapted so very easily. In the same way, the trees which are grown in the polar region cannot be brought to the Gokak and grown, because it needs the same temperature and same climatic condition. So that's what I am trying to tell. But this is an example given in your book telling that mango trees cannot grow in temperate countries. Right, so they need certain temperature of its own, then only it will start flowering and fruiting. Then there is no snow leopard in Kerala forest. Do we find a snow leopard in Kerala forest? No. Why it is not there? Because those are the leopards which survive in the snow bed. So a Kerala forest does not have a snow bed, so that's why it cannot exist. Even third example is tuna fishes are rare. they are beyond the tropical latitudes in the ocean. So tuna fishes also cannot be brought to the normal riverbed and put it there, or to the specific oceans. If you put it, will start growing. It may die because it does not have its own environment. So these are the few examples which tries to tell that the organism exists in their biome with their adaptability, and they have their own habitat wherever they live. That's how the temperature affects the each body organism. Now, if at all there is a change, suddenly we change the organism from one biome to the another biome. What happened? The temperature may affect their kinetic enzymes. Okay, what it will do? It will affect their kinetic enzyme, basal metabolism, and other physiological function of the organism. Physiological function means it may affect its digestion, respiration, circulation. All this may undergo deformation. Also, it may have a greater effect when there is change in the temperature. It cannot withstand. It may die. So that's why what we tell is the temperature is also an important factor. It shows a great amount of variation according to the altitude and also latitudinally. Okay, so that what we try to understand regarding the temperature. So if in the metabolic activities begins at a certain minimum temperature, increases with increase in temperature until it reaches a maximum temperature called as a optimum temperature. Any organism, if its metabolic activity has to be maintained. Okay, it has to be maintained means it would have been maintained the temperature in a optimal level for its body. So if that is disturbed, then it will die. So that what temperature is a very keen topic, where we tell the temperature is has to be maintained according to the organism homeostasis. Suddenly you cannot change the habitat of an organism. If you change also, there will be effect on its physiological function. Okay. See, there are two types of range of temperature. Based on the range of thermal tolerance, organisms are classified into two types. Means, if we change its biome or a habitat, how far it will withstand, how far it will withstand. Now I told, if yeah, what do you tell, a wide range of temperature means more range of temperature. If we so if we are in Gokak, we can bear the hot temperature and also cold temperature, but not extreme. Okay, suddenly people of Antarctica, or animals of Antarctica polar region, they are in the very low temperature, that is narrow range temperature. Suddenly they are shifted to the Rajasthan desert, that is wide range. Can it tolerate? If it tolerates, then they are called as eurythermal. Do you understand? The animals which can tolerate a wide range of temperature. So what is eurythermal? The organism which tolerate a wide range of temperature is called as eurythermal. If the organism or the animals, they can tolerate only a narrow range of temperature, they are known as stenothermal. So here are the some examples given which they live in a extreme conditions. Okay, so what is eurythermal? These are the organism which can tolerate wide range of temperature. Stenothermal, the organism which tolerate only narrow range of temperature. See, all these sentences are specifically through the NCRT, which are very important. So I am telling you again and again, children, that you have to make a fair notes by the slides only. Okay, uh, we'll move to the next slide. Yes. Coming to the second one. What is the second important abiotic factor? Means it is water. How important is the water? See, the water is said to be as a liquid of life. Yes or no? Can we survive without water? Maybe we can survive without food, but not without the water. So the water comes on the earth in the form of what all types? It comes in the form of rain, snow, hails, dew. Okay, the amount of water available will determine the type of vegetation and distribution of the plants in different areas. So no, if there is a heavy rainfall continuously, usually heavy continuous rainfall we see in the equatorial forest, tropical forest and all, we see in that graph I have said you. Whereas in our place, it is deciduous condition where it exists, nor more of rainfall nor less of rainfall, like that. So the rainfall, okay, rainfall also is a measurement which tells what type of organism may exist there. Okay, so that is how important. Now, when we consider water, the 75% of the earth is covered by the water, like in which form it is covered in the sea, rivers, lagoons, and these all are the supportive for the survival of different types of plants. The chief source of soil water is the rainfall, that you know. Then amount of water which is retained in the air, what do we call it as? Atmospheric humidity we call it as, or hail, mist. This all are the nearly some amount of water which is retained in the atmosphere. Nearly 20% of water percolates into soil to form a nearly fire percolates in the soil to form gravitational water, and the top layer of the gravitational water we find the water table. The water is classified into nearly some four types of water, that is gravitational water, hygroscopic water, combined water, then capillary water. Among all this water, only one water is available for the plants, that is capillary water. Okay, this is regarding the types of water existing according to the absorption in the soil basement. Okay. So now here I have put the some two property, that is the desert organism have a special adaptation. When we compare the desert, the water level is very less. I have said you there are oases. Near the oasis, the organism which live near the oasis will be quite more than compared to the other places other than the oasis in the desert region. So the desert region, when the water level is less, there according to the limited water, the adaptation of organism will be there. So accordingly, the organism which exist in the desert will consume very less water. Whereas when we compare to the organism which are living distributed on the land, they also are dependent on water, but not as much as like aquatic animals. So productivity and distribution of the plants also will depend on water. Now, when we tell tropical forest where rainfall is continuously, means that does not mean plant is going to observe the water continuously. No, the water availability is more also. It will sustain its growth. Okay, it will try to survive in that water content. Like even mangrove trees, when we tell the mangrove trees, they grow in a sludged area where they will be inside the water only with the clogged sandy or the clay soil, but still they survive. That means what, they know how much to observe the water. So there are different plants distributed based on the rainfall or based on the water availability also. So here for aquatic organism, I told no, water quality means it depends upon the chemical composition and the pH, which is very important. Then secondly, salt concentration, salinity in parts per thousand, it will be usually greater than 5 in the inland waters. I mean lesser than 5 in the inland waters, 30 to 35 in the sea, then greater than 100 in some hypersaline lagoons. See, when we consider sea or the oceans, there salinity will be more. That is, salt level in the water will be more. Accordingly, the organism which exists in the sea water will usually normally will not exist in the river water. The river water, the salinity will be less. So that's what I'm telling. No, though there is water availability also, based on the composition of the water, salt concentration also, organisms are distributed. Okay. Now, based on the tolerance of the salinity, see this one. The organism are classified into two types. Salinity means what? Concentration of the salt. Can we drink salt water continuously? No, we cannot. We are dependent on the river water. By this only we can understand no the organism distribution of the organism or the animals or the plants depends upon the salinity level also. Water is a component which is needed for all the organism. So here there are two types. One is urihalin. That is urihalin means organism tolerate a wide range of salinity. Maybe in the sea, in the ocean, where the water, if you just when you go to the beach to play, also if the water enters the mouth, we started like puking out. Why? So very salty it will be. Then coming to steno, here are the organism, they can tolerate only narrow range of salinity. Suddenly, if you change their environment, put them into the ocean, means they may die. So that what there are two types. So here are the some example. That is common molly is a uri halin, and Carcinus minus, it is a crab species where they can tolerate the wide range of salinity. Whereas a goldfish, that is you seen in the aquarium, haddock, so they are stenohaline. They cannot tolerate wide range. They can tolerate only narrow range of salinity, means less range of salt concentration. So many freshwater animals cannot live for long in sea water, vice versa, because of the osmotic problem. What is osmotic problem? Osmosis means what? The movement of the movement of the water molecule from a region of high concentration to low concentration. That means from the body, when the water moves to the outer environment, the osmotic problems occurs. It cannot take back or absorb back the water into its body, because there will be change in its habitat. Means usually the animals which are steno-align cannot tolerate, they may die. The third one is light. So here in abiotic factor, the third one is the light. Here plants need sunlight for photosynthesis, that you know. Now, when the sunlight is too much also, not avoidable, too much, what will happen? The plants will burn and die. That means what? There should be optimum level of the sunlight also for photosynthesis. Usually, when I explained the photosynthesis chapter, I would have been explained regarding electromagnetic spectrum also. In electromagnetic spectrum, what do we tell? All the rays are we find in that rays, in electromagnetic radiation. The visible rays, the plant observe the visible rays of the wavelength between 600 to 700, which is a very good wavelength to trap the electrons for the photosynthesis. Okay, some here that what I am trying to tell you. For photosynthesis also, optimum temperature means that what the visible light rays are essential for the photosynthesis in the plants, that is autotroph. In small forest plants, the sporulus such as herbs and shrubs are adapted to photosynthesis optimally. See this word. Optimally means how much it is required on, I mean, not minimum, not maximum. It is an optimum under very low light, because they are overshadowed by the tall canopied trees. So sometimes what about the small herbs and shrubs which are growing under the canopy. Canopy means big trees will be there. These big trees will cover the sun rays. So the plants which are grown under its shadow also will enhance the light how much ever it requires. Means optimum light it requires. By that the growth can be seen. Okay. So that is regarding in a small forest. Then many plants depend on sunlight for photoperiodism, of course. So here long day plants, short day plants, we tell. Some plants, they require nearly more than 8 hours of light for flowering. Some plants, 8 means 12 hours they may require for flowering. For some plants, they may require less than 8 hours for flowering. So, accordingly, the flowers, plants are also classified as I said you, according to the photoperiodism, that is long day plant and short day plant. Then, many animals use the diurnal and seasonal variation in the light intensity and photo period for timing their foraging, reproductive and migratory activities. So here many animals also are dependent on light. Some are diurnal. Diurnal means they have a rhythmic cycle in their life cycle. That is, they exist in the dark and also in the light medium. Okay, so a seasonal variation depends upon the light intensity. Seasonal variation means I told you in the winter the cloudy it appears where sunlight is less, whereas in summer it will be double. The light intensity will be more, photo period will be more. So this timing, if it is maintained, it helps for aging means foraging and also for reproductive and the migratory activities. Migratory activities, when we tell in a stressful abiotic factor, one example we will give even there, like some of the birds which cannot adapt themselves to the high temperature. So at when there is a seasonal change in their place, it becomes very hot. They fly to the place where there is winter, that is less of sunlight. So usually light is a one which sensitize, okay, which sensitize even reproduction and also migratory activities. When the light is more, okay, growth is more, development is more, even reproduction will be more. Coming to the, so this is what I told you regarding electromagnetic spectrum. Among this electromagnetic spectrum given, there are Y rays, X rays, UV rays, then infrared rays, microwaves, radio waves. In this, which is the light which is used by the plant, means it is visible light. In the visible light, you can see there are nearly 7 colors, that is rainbow color. Among this color, the plant usually observes the red light, which exists between 600 to 700 nanometer. So this is a very good light in the visible rays, which are enhances for the photosynthesis, traps the solar energy in the form of electron to run the photosynthesis. Now coming to the first point, yeah, sun is the ultimate source for the light and temperature on the land. Usually in the deep sea, in the deep sea, some rays, here is the diagram, some rays will enter nearly 500 meter in the ocean. Very thin rays will enter a depth of the ocean. Why it has to enter the depth of the ocean? There are also some of the hydrophytes we can tell, which is dependent on the light, where photosynthesis has to occur. So here that what the second point, the environment is dark and there is no energy available from the sun. The spectral quality of the solar radiation is also important for life. The UV spectrum is harmful to many organisms. Not all the color components of visible spectrum are available for marine plants. Then what is available for the marine plants? See, for the marine plants, usually for red and the brown algae, some of the light rays will be enhances, changes the components of the color also, and also helps in photosynthesis, they tell. Now coming to the fourth factor, that is soil. See, whenever a farmer starts a new farming land, usually he will do the soil test. So why the soil test is done? Soil test is done to know the pH, mineral composition, and if this is all known, a very what type of crop can be grown in that soil is understood. So for that, at least they will do the soil testing. Now coming to the soil, based on the properties of the soil only, even the crops are grown. Now in our area, what are the commercial crops grown? Means it is a wheat, jowar, sugarcane, cotton. Sugarcane and cotton are the commercial crops which are grown in our land, which it requires a black soil. When we go to the south, in the south they grow the paddy. In Mandya, maybe Mysore, maybe there is a growth of paddy, because the soil is usually red soil and also clay soil we find. So the soil are very rich in the nutrient which enhances that type of crops to be grown. So here the nature and the properties of soil is different. Why it is different? It is different due to the climate, weathering process, sedimentation, and the method of soil development. Now, how is soil formed? When the rocks undergo weathering, and as the sediment rock undergo the weathering, we call it as sedimentation. By that, the soil is formed. Okay, so that how the soil is differed due to the climate and the weathering process. Next, the soil composition, it depends upon the soil variation, it depends upon the composition, the grain size, aggregation of the soil particles, determines the percolate and water holding capacity of the soil. Here when we talk this, I have already said you, when I explain the water, there are four types of water: hygroscopic, combined water, then gravitational water, capillary. Among this, all this water, only capillary water is available to the plants, means that depends upon the percolation and water holding capacity of the soil. That is the meaning of this sentence. Okay, then these characteristic and parameters like pH, mineral composition, topography. Topography means the climate existing in the present soil determines the vegetation and animals in an area. Now, in a desert, there will be desert rat, a squirrel, a snake, camel existing. That means the area, the biome will also decide the types of animals and types of plants existing in its area. So even soil plays an important role for the existence of the both flora and fauna. Now coming to aquatic environment, the sediment characteristic determine the type of benthic animals. What are benthic animals? Means the animals which are found in the bed of the ocean are called as benthos or benthic animals. So it also depends upon the soil present in the seabed. Okay, so that means soil is also one of the important abiotic factor which determines what type of vegetation should be grown and what type of animals should be existing.